Hello and welcome to another edition of Addiction Talk. Well, if you are a fan of rock music, you'll want to stay tuned and listen into my guest for today. Take a listen. Wes Geer first found success as the founding member of Head PE, as a guitarist, songwriter, and producer. After touring the world for 8 years, he left the band for a lifestyle change and ultimately landed in rehab. Years after rehab, he joined the legendary band Korn as their touring guitarist, playing to crowds of 80,000 people. Wes's music has also been featured in many feature films, video games, and on radio and television shows. It was in rehab that Wes also realized the healing power of music and went on to become the founder of Rock to Recovery. Addiction Talk starts now. And we're excited to welcome Wes to the show. I always know that we're going to learn something. Hey, Wes, I love you. Give me the peace sign. I know that we're going to learn something from your story tonight. And first, I think for people who are your fans, they want to know, we want to go back to your early years, because I always am fascinated to figure out how people find their way to becoming musicians and artists. So what was it for you? How did you know you were even gifted at this? How did you find your way to that?
I think finding your way in any sort of career that maybe seems hard to obtain is, I think if you talk to a lot of people who are successful, they didn't really have a choice. I couldn't stop playing guitar. I couldn't stop with this concept that I'm going to make records, that I'm going to make music, and I'm going to turn on the radio. And my friends would say, "You don't think you can make it in the band?" I'd say, I think I could do that on the radio. And I would imagine a guy like Kobe Bryant was just like, I'm going to go shoot 1,000 free throws a day, and that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it. And so I think that, and just to be clear to people listening, it doesn't mean that you don't have self-doubt. It doesn't mean that many times I wasn't like, what the F am I doing? Is this a waste of my time? This is horrible. This song sucks. My band sucks. Yeah, you go through that, but you just keep going. So that would be my answer.
How old were you? So you said you started playing guitar. I mean, you were in music class and somebody said, "Hey, try this out." Like, how did that even start?
Yeah. So my family was musical. And I think when you're young, music doesn't have much of a meaning in the sense of like, it's just kind of part of the background. But obviously being in a musical family was important part of it. It's in my DNA. And my grandfather was a music director at the church, and he played the bell tower, which is called the carillon. So it was around me, but that was kind of like normal music. But it was when I heard my brother Jim play Smoke on the Water on acoustic, it was like, down, 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 near, near. Like, whoa. Now, what was that? That stuck with me. And a few years later, I heard bands like Iron Maiden and Van Halen and all these screaming guitars. And I wanted to know how to make those sounds. Like, I was like, I want to do that. And I think probably the fact my grandmother played violin and I had that kind of exposure as well maybe made my ears perk up on the guitar, because guitar and violin, they're kind of in the same realm in terms of the sonic part of the spectrum they fulfill.
Mm-hmm. And so how old were you when you figured out that you were good at it? Because it's one thing to say, I feel like I can play, or I love this music. I can see how you were passionate about what your brother was playing, but when did you realize that you had talent?
Probably just when I would be around other people who had been playing a short period of time, like myself, a year or two, and I'd be like, oh. And then, to be honest, we're a bunch of cocky little kids in high school. So what was going on at the time, they'd be like, I won't use their real name, but so-and-so's playing at that party up the street. Oh, what? And my friends would pick me up and I'd come over with my amp. It sounds so like stupid now, but he'd be like, and I'd be like, oh yeah, well, and my friends would be like, oh, you smoked them. So we had these little guitar competitions going on. So I guess in high school, I could tell that I had some skills, and the guys I worked with, I was often teaching people who had been playing longer than me.
Mm-hmm. Did you find as you were, finding your passion in this, that alcohol and drugs became kind of part of the culture? Were you introduced to it through the music?
I wouldn't blame music on it. For me, it went the opposite way. We had moved a lot in my childhood as my family was working so hard to give us a better life, but it was still being the new kid. Well, I was in Garden Grove for a number of years, kind of like I think at end of elementary school into high school, and I really felt like I had some roots there. But then we moved again, and I got like emotional over that, like and I was scared and I didn't know how to feel it. And that's when I picked up weed. And when I looked at my timeline, when my use went up, it was always after something that felt emotional to me happened. So I didn't say consciously, we're moving, I'm sad, I better smoke a joint. But I was emotional. Somebody had, I'm like, yeah. And then what would happen is I went to this new school where I knew nobody, and I just smoked weed all day, every day, and played guitar all day, every day, every moment I had spare. So it was kind of hand in hand. And, look, as soon as I started doing weed, I started really doing poorly in school. I stopped getting along well with my family and my mom and all that. Artistically speaking, it had its value because I would get really stoned and just be like, yo, yeah, I'm feeling it, man. So
No, I think that's really interesting because a lot of artists, you will hear them say that, there was a time when they felt like when they were on weed or doing other drugs that they felt they were so creative. And you've even said that you felt like it tapped into a part of you, like a part of your creativity. But when you look back on it now, do you see it differently for artists who say, how can I create a masterpiece without it?
well, you've kind of said a couple different things. The reality is that our brains are full of self-doubt. This isn't going to work because of that. Don't get on the dance floor and dance. Oh, you have a couple drinks. You're like, F it, I'll go dance, right? So it's really, you're turning off that doubter, that overthinker. And you can do it a lot of different ways, right? And I'm talking artistically. So when you're creating, any musician is like, that's stupid. You play that chord all the time. That's not cool. You're trying to find that thing where you're like, ooh, this feels cool and different. Mm-hmm. And so when you're loaded, it's easier to get to that place, to shut it off, to kind of just feel the music without the judging mind, right? And like I said, people use that to go dancing. They use it to go on dates or to an amusement park, getting high and shutting off your mind. In terms of like creating in a sober realm, I have to be sober or I'll be dead. I know that. Like, I will not survive doing what I was doing. So I have two choices: give up art and music altogether, or learn, how to do it sober. And again, if you're listening and you're not a musician, then maybe you're a teacher or a student, you can still liken the elements of the story to what you're going through. How do we live life sober when at first drugs and booze was working for us? Now it's not. Now we got to say goodbye. How do we keep doing what we love? Well, guess what? It wasn't the drugs playing the guitar. You know what I mean? It was me playing the guitar. And so what you realize is that inspiration finds you working. So you just keep playing, you keep doing what you do, and that becomes the norm. And then what you realize is that, oh, a lot of times I thought I was playing these amazing things because I was stoned or drunk or high, and they weren't as great as I thought. When you learn to create and you're like sober, right? But you're truly channeling creative and divine spirit. When you think something's good, it's good. You know what I mean? That's my experience. It's good for you. I'm not saying you're going to, sell a bajillion records, but it's a more true place to express from, because it's not synthetic.
How difficult, though, I wonder, Wes, was it to change your mindset, to shift to believing that, what you were using was helping your creativity, versus knowing that it was divinely in you? Like you said, you would find it would find its way to you.
Yeah, well, for me, the spiritual path is key. It's part of that equation. So when my first band, was starting to fall apart, Limp Bizkit reached out to me to go write some music with them. And I snuck off to do that. I wanted to go, I'm in Limp Bizkit now. Screw you guys. And I went right for the drugs because that's what I thought I had to have, right? So that was the old mentality. When I got sober, it was more like having conversations with God or the universe or whatever we want to call it, going, well, certainly I wasn't put on this earth to be miserable and be a musician who can't create because I got to be sober. That just doesn't feel right. So it's like, if this is the path I'm supposed to be on, to be my best self, my truest self, my highest self, then surely music must be part of it. And so it was just like trusting that there was a divine path in there. And then, I had the fortune of getting sober at a time when other people had done it before me.
Mhm.
We've seen so many people die, whether they're actors, athletes, models, rock stars. But we also have started to see the culture talk so much about addiction and mental health that we know we're not alone, right? Trent
Mhm.
Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, super dark, and he got sober and made the best album of his life, and there's endless
Mm.
examples of that. And so you look for the inspiration. And I think the problem that so many people fall into with addiction is that they think they're so different. It's like, yo, man, if Trent Reznor can get sober and write an amazing record, then I can do it too. Why not? I'm going to look for the reasons I can more than I'm going to look for the reasons I can't.
Well, you know what I'm curious too, Wes, as you're kind of sharing more about your story. How did you even realize you had a problem? Because I know a lot of times people think, hey, it's just part of the party scene. Like you said, many kids use weed in high school or tried, alcohol and stuff. But when did you realize, hey, I'm a little different? This is not just partying for me. This is to another level.
Yeah. So the first times I got drunk, my friend singled me out and like, you're too drunk, go to the bed. And I was like, why? I'm just drinking like you, but it didn't make sense. But that kind of thing carried on with me. Like when my band Head went on tour with Korn, Jonathan Davis, the singer, came over and was like, we got to sit down. I heard about your drinking. And I'm like, here we are in an arena playing a rock show and y'all lecturing me about drinking when everybody's partying every night. I just didn't get it. But I had this other gear of being out of control. And luckily I was in an environment where they were seeing me somewhat, right? Even though at some point I'd go hide or run off with a girl or something and do whatever. Imagine if you're a person who just comes home after work and gets tanked and nobody can see it. And then you show up to
Mhm.
work and you're a little hungover or whatever. Luckily, I had people singling me out. So that kind of followed me all the time. But, when we got our first record deal with Head, I was at the height of my meth addiction. So you couldn't tell
Mm.
me I had a problem. So that happens for a lot of people, this thing where it's working, I got five kids and I got to drink my wine and it's getting me through,
And here you are at
but
the height of your career, what you're thinking, and you're like, I
exactly.
got this under control.
Yeah. I mean, the singer and I got flown to meet with Jive Records in New York, picked up in a town car after chasing a record deal forever. And I'm had been on meth every day for a couple of years. You couldn't tell me I have a problem. You know what I mean? But deep down inside, and I think with what happens with addiction is that the bad things that happen, like losing your job, your girl, your wife, your career, your money, whatever, that has nothing to do with addiction. But those are the things to motivate us to say, hey, I have a problem. How
Mhm.
about the fact that you couldn't stop doing meth every day for 3 years? No, I'm fine because look at my record deal and you know what I mean?
So what motivated you then? Because Wes,
Well,
that's hard. I mean, like you said, I
yeah.
know people were in your ear saying, hey, friend, hey, Wes, something's not right here. But you got a record, dear. You have been doing this for a couple years. So was there like a light bulb moment for you or a rock bottom?
So during Head, that was almost 10 years we were touring, and I was trying to control it every way I could. When I left that band, um, I went back into a day job. My soul was crushed. Who am I? I'm not a musician. And then my drug use went higher than ever. And then so finally I told my brother, like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing meth and heroin. It's really bad. And he said, okay, if you could straighten out. I said, yeah, I've done it before. I'll straighten out. Then no problem. But I couldn't stay stopped no matter how hard I tried. And I couldn't understand. So the deal was, if I couldn't get under control myself, then I had to go to rehab or go on my merry way with no support from anybody. It was,
So you made that deal with your brother?
Yeah, because I was working with him at the time. So, it was basically I couldn't stay off the drugs for good and I kept going back. And so it was either, you're fired, get out of here and do what you want to do, or go to rehab. And I was like, maybe I should go to Thailand and ride elephants.
Mm.
Nah, I'm out of control. And it hit me on the deepest level. I'm out of
Like you
control. I
felt
have,
it in your gut. It was like a soul
yeah.
feeling.
We call it the moment of clarity. My
Okay.
moment, my moment of clarity sounds like maybe a little more subtle, saying you're out of control. Well, like, duh, you're out of control. But it was like I didn't say it out here to my friends. It was like the core of my being. I was laying there in the bed, like, dude, you're out of control. You have no control. Every night you go out, it's going to be one beer, and 2 weeks later you come back or whatever. So I accepted help. That was it. I was willing to get help. I was willing to go to a rehab, and I felt a great relief. Like, okay, the fight and the facade and the charade that I'm putting out to the world is over. And then when I got into rehab and got into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, even though I thought my problem was meth and heroin, I understood. I learned in there, like, oh, I got this allergy. That's why when I have one beer, I'm off to the races. I'm different from other people, and I'll never not have that allergy. And that literature, I found myself in there. It wasn't forced upon me, but when I read it, I was like, oh, this explains so much. All right, I'll try this thing.
So it seems like you were willing, like you had gone through so much
Oh yeah.
that you had surrendered. Like you surrendered to it, it seems like.
I surrendered. I was done fighting. Yeah, yeah, because I had been fighting it for so long.
How long
You
was
know.
long had you been dealing with it?
Well,
Up to
you're talking. I started smoking weed at 14. Got kicked out of high school at 16. Lived in my car. Got fired from Domino's. Fired from Carl's Jr. Fired from McDonald's. Fired from my other day job. I got fired. I mean, I lost my band, not directly because of addiction, but it definitely was not helping. Or you could say directly from addiction, but not for the reasons you might think. But so at this point, I think I was 38, and you have this life where, what is that? 20,
20 more than 20 years.
24 years of just struggling in every way, just feeling job and career and society and relationships and
Did you
DUIs.
did you feel like you were yourself, because you said you had also kind of felt like you were putting on this facade? So was there a part of you that felt like you weren't truly you?
Well, when I said that, yes, in different incarnations, but in that moment, what I was saying is when I was working for my brother, using a lot of drugs, showing up to a day job, and trying to pretend everything was okay. That's a facade. And what we know is most people who are alcoholics or drug addicts, they're hiding it. They know. On one hand, they'll say, no, I'm fine. I don't got a problem. On the other hand, they're hiding it. They don't want people to know what they're doing, how much they're doing, how bad it is, how lonely they are, how desperate they are, how lost they feel. And that's it. You put, oh, no, I'm great. People would ask me towards the end, for sure, Jennifer. People would ask me towards the end when I would go out, and I hadn't slept in so long. And they'd be like, how are you, man? I'd be like, oh, I'm great. They'd be like, dude, how are you? I'd be like, what? What are you talking about? And inside I knew, but I had to be like, what? Put up the wall. What are you talking about? I'm good, man. I'm good. I was not good, and the story towards the end of that is I got up in the morning after not sleeping and resting and going to work. And I was like, oh my God, I saw the bags and I looked like a ghost, like I'm ready for Halloween. And I saw some makeup a lady left at my house. I was like, oh, I'll just put this on the dark spots. And next thing you know, I have makeup. So I go out looking like, Herman Munster or something. And that, people are like, dude, what's up with you? Oh, I'm fine. And, again, anybody listen, maybe you didn't do meth or heroin or wear makeup, but it's about looking for the similarities, not the differences. What were you doing out there pretending it was all okay when you knew it wasn't? You know what I mean?
So when you got to treatment, I thought something that I've heard you say that was so interesting, Wes, because you had been playing, most of your life by that time, but that you realized that there was like this healing part of music for you. How did you discover that? Were you like in a therapy class or you were just playing your guitar one night that you said, this has the power to help me through this sobriety journey?
Yeah. So it's interesting. So as a a musician into rock, and I like really artsy, kind of dark, trippy stuff. For me, just to strum what we call like a campfire chord, just your typical D or C chord, is like boring, does nothing for me, right? That's what I would have said before. In rehab, when I'm destroyed, shame, guilt, low self-esteem, lost, just like, just stuck in this dark place, when I would hit one chord, I had my guitar with me in the rehab. I'm with 22 guys. You're like, that's my homie. He's cool. That guy's a weirdo. I will never talk to that dude. That's what's going on in there.
Yeah, that's what
Because you're stuck with a bunch of people from all over you don't know.
Place, right.
And you're insecure. So it's not like you're going to be like, yeah, you're my bro. You're going to be like, so I would hit one chord and be like, damn, I'm feeling this chord right now. It's changing the energy in the room. And then I would do like a silly country riff, like bow, damn, bow, dick it, bow, damn, and all the guys would start dancing around, and it'd be like, whoa, everybody's ego's gone, everybody's cool guys, stand up, and we'd all start dancing. It brought us together. The world and the cliques went away, and gangster dudes would be doing like two steps, and and I'm like, okay, so this is crazy. I watched not just the power music had, but in that setting, how more exponentially powerful it was for people who are they need a different energy, a different emotion, right? Who've been seeking drugs and things outside of themselves in an unhealthy, deadly way. Why isn't this magic of music being presented in treatment centers?
That's a really good question, because I would love to hear how you even felt like it healed you. Like, did it just give you a place to kind of just release, to get all those emotions? Because I know you said, there was a lot that you'd gone through as a child. So was it just like a release for you?
Well, in rehab, I started writing songs that were very meditative, right? I played in rock and punk and bands that did hip hop and all sorts of heavy stuff. I mean, I love it all. I love mellow music, classical music, Mozart. But I would write songs that were really slow and almost trance-inducing. And so I would use it like, and not where I'm changing a bunch of notes, but just cycling on a couple notes and patterns over and over. And it changed me as a writer for sure. But that's what I was doing in the rehab to kind of soothe my soul.
I also wonder, when you think about music being soothing, but expressing yourself, was it a way that you could express what you were feeling?
Yeah, my music's always been a bit melancholy. That's what I like. So, you're letting it channel out. I have a horrible voice. So if I could get out there and sing, just came
scare the people now. Don't scare the people.
My brain just came. Yeah. Have you seen that thing with Jamie Foxx where he goes, F you, F you, F, 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 F you? He's saying the word F though. That's probably what I would have been singing at that time, but it's been going around. It's a reel on the web right now. But anyhow, I was channeling the emotions I had, that sadness, and letting it come out through my fingertips.
So what I think is really interesting is you leave rehab, right? And a few years later, you decide to go back into the touring. Were you nervous? Because here you had kind of cultivated, a safety net to some extent with being in sobriety and getting yourself, where you felt like you had everything in control. You're still loving music, but then you decide, I'm going to throw myself back into, touring and stuff. What was going through your mind?
So I got almost 3 years sober, like 2 years and 11 months, and I relapsed. So that, and I looked at, okay, well, why'd you relapse? You were doing the 12 steps. You had a transformation. You felt great. Everything was great. What happened? Well, you stopped working on your recovery and your program. And so I was like, what can I do? What can I do this time that needs to be different so I don't relapse? Okay, don't stop working your program and stay connected to the fellowship of your recovered people, because I stopped doing that. And when I stopped working on my program and hung out with drinkers all the time, wow, can you believe it? I started drinking. No way. So that lesson had been learned. And I wanted to get back in music. I started meditating. Universe, take me back. I want to get in a nice big band or something. And sure enough, Korn called me in a few days out of this meditation. It's like some magical stuff that happened. And so I went on the road at that time, about 2.5 years sober, knowing
Mm.
I got to stay active. So as I went on the road, first of all, if that call had come in a year earlier, I probably wouldn't have felt ready. At this time, 2.5 years, I felt good and solid my recovery, meeting intuitively, not up here. It was like, okay. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to meetings all over the world. I'm going to work my
So
program.
you
So
wait a minute. So you went to meetings all over the world?
yeah, I went to meetings in India and Japan and Hong Kong and Germany and Paris and England and you name it, and that's what's cool is like, especially for people who wish they belonged, it's like, why would you do this alone? You have a built-in network, especially in California and these areas and the East Coast where we have so many meetings. You have this network that will support you no matter what. So I'd go to a meeting. Actually, I went to a meeting in Australia right on my 3rd birthday on tour with Korn, and it's like I had a support group. It's like, hey, can somebody give me a ride back to the hotel? Oh, crikey, mate, I give you a ride to the hotel, no problem. I probably sound like an English guy, but
Your accent
they love
pretty good.
they love, meaning fellow alkies helping you out. Yeah. And that's how I stayed connected. And I did my routine and got on my knees every morning and prayed. Thank you for my recovery. Help me stay sober today. And I did my deal, read my spiritual books, get some meditation in. If I could hit a meeting, I would. And before every show, I prayed, man, like, thank you. This is all a gift of sobriety, that I got to come back at this level. And you asked something, was I scared? No, because I had a solution. I can't comment. Look, not everybody going to do AA and the 12 steps. I get it.
Right,
Some
right.
people can get recovery on their own. Great. I can't comment on that. I couldn't do it on my own. I've done it with the 12 steps. And this is a program for living that works for me when I work it, guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't scared because I knew what to do. I knew, go out on the road. Don't try to pretend you're normal. I'm an alcoholic. Let's keep working on my program. And it worked,
But Wes, I think first of all, that's so powerful, but because it shows if you want it, like you put the boundaries in place to support what you really wanted and to maintain your sobriety. I mean, the fact that you're in Japan, I mean, where they even speak in English, that you're going into, Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and you're saying, hey, I need to find my people. I need to be connected in this process to keep my sobriety. And now to see you, how many years are you celebrating now?
Almost 15. Yeah.
Okay. So, wow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you just showing, the power there is when you know what to do and you follow it, even in the midst of, touring and all of that, which could have been really challenging for you. So, as we're going through your story, how did you get to the point of realizing? I know we've talked about you going on tour, we've talked about you kind of finding your path in all of this. When did you realize you needed to help other people find their path through music and recovery? How did that happen?
Well, one of the tenets of AA is that, like, if you read in the beginning of the literature, the doctor's opinion, he's talking about these hopeless people that he, the expert on addiction and alcoholism, couldn't help. They're too far gone. Started recovering with this, or what were the earlier versions of the 12 steps. I think they had 6 steps. And what the key was, even for them, brand new, was to go help others. That's how they recovered.
Right,
And
right.
in this model today, most people, I shouldn't say most people, it seems like a lot of people don't get that. They're like, I need to be sober. Where's mine? This meeting's lame. This is lame. I don't like this. I don't like this. Like, no. My job that I was taught, that I believe in, you don't have to ascribe to this. My job is to get sober and start helping other people who are looking for help. And the magic is that when, because the disease centers in my mind so much, it's like selfish fear and self-centered fear. You know what I mean? Like, I need this. I'm worried about that. I'm too fat. I'm too this. I'm too old. I'm too whatever. Well, the best way to get out of that and feel good about myself is go, yo, what's your name? I see you're new here. Hey, let's hang out. You want to grab a coffee? How can I support you? Boom. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling the spirit and I'm feeling that connection. That's a tenet of recovery to me that is crucial, that is so forgotten by so many, So When the Korn gig was going away, because the original guy was coming back, Brian Head Welch, he was coming back. I was going into self-pity, like, great, I'm losing this amazing gig. I'm in my 40s. What the F do I do now? And I wanted to be like, poor me. How dare you screw me again,
Mm.
And I was like, wait a second. I know I'm supposed to be sober. I'm staying sober. And I felt like I was drawn to music. Okay. I don't think God, the universe, or whatever sent me here to suffer. Okay. If I'm not sent here to suffer, I'm supposed to be a musician. I'm supposed to be sober. How can I help people and make a living? And that prayer came to me because I was taught through recovery that my life isn't just about like, yo, I need a Bentley, I need millions of dollars, I need a bunch of babes. It's like, no. My job is to take who I am, my skills, my attributes, and go, how can I show up big for the world around me and help those around me? Even if you're a barista at Starbucks, your job is to be like, I'm going to make you the best damn cappuccino and put some love in this. Here you go, baby. You know what I mean? But when we bring that, I should be an actor, I'm just a barista. That's like,
it's
that
all
energy
about
gets
you. But
Yeah,
when
it's
you
all about you.
realize, like you said, I think that's so good because it takes the focus off of you, and now you're giving to other people's, and it gives you purpose. So all of a sudden, in the midst of you thinking like, hey, Korn's going away, what am I going to do? You find purpose.
I find purpose.
That's deep.
And it's so deep. And it's a choice, really. In Rock to Recovery, where we're taking music to hurting people, veterans, and, pregnant mothers facing addiction and all sorts of people, addiction, mental health. Obviously, we're helping people, but we get that fulfillment, right? Because we're helping people. But you could take that same energy into whatever you do. But the point is that I think the meaning of life, or a meaning of life, is really, who can I help out there in the world with who I am and what I do? Even if you're on the computer processing insurance claims,
you have somebody that you can impact.
That's what's the energy you're taking into that? Yeah, my job sucked. Yeah. Okay, have fun with that. Or like, yo, I'm helping people. Let me get this claim down. Where's the love? And that love will come back to you. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't like your job and eventually you're going to move on. Fine, follow your heart, your passion. But the point is, whatever we do, we're doing it for the world around us. We're supposed to bring that love and giving into our world.
And like you said, it helps in the recovery. But we have a question for Michael before I kind of get more into the Rock to Recovery, because I want to talk more about that. But he said, what do your bandmates think of your choice to be sober? What was their reaction?
Well, that's a great question. So in Head, we were all just wastoids. We all just partied so much, did so much drugs. They were worried about me. My drummer used to say, I used to go to your house and have to check on you, and I think I was going to find you dead. So they're all like, oh, wow, Wes is sober. First of all, miracle that he's still alive. And second of all, thank God that he's sober. Secondly, the Korn gig I got, and this is an important part, I'm glad you brought me back here. My brain said I couldn't do music and be sober. But then I had enough recovery where it's like, wait a second, like we talked about, if I'm supposed to be a musician sober, I can do music and be sober. Well, the reality was I got the Korn gig because I was sober. They wanted a sober guy.
Good.
The guy that was filling in for Brian, they had a couple. The guy who was filling in for Brian, Shane Gibson, was actually drinking himself to death. He had the rare scenario where he had never toured. He was a guitar prodigy, went on tour in a very short time, drank himself to death. Rarely happens with men. So they were watching him drink and lie and whatever. And so their desire was, we need somebody who knows about touring, who isn't a drunk. And so that's why I got that gig. So what did they think about it? They thought, hell yeah, because my name came up in the Korn camp years earlier, and they were like, oh, hell no, that Wes guy's a nut. We can't hire him. And then years went by. I had rebuilt my reputation, and my name came up. And they're like, "No, he's a couple of years sober. Let's get him out here."
That's so huge. So you actually got the gig because they said, "Oh, have you seen Wes now? He's doing big things. He's sober. We can trust him to come on tour with us."
Yeah, and I think anybody respects somebody who's sober, because what comes along with it is not just abstinence. You start living right. Hopefully, not everybody, because there's a disease under there. And if we just quit drinking and don't get down to the causes and conditions, sometimes we act out with anger, violence, sex, spending, shopping, whatever. But if you get into true recovery, you're really working on your darker side and evolving into your lighter, most powerful being, if you will.
I love that you're evolving. So I wanted to go back before we had that question about rock to recovery. Explain to me more about that because I know you, for people who've heard you kind of briefly mention it, tell me exactly what you're doing. And I know you said this kind of led you to part of your purpose.
So, Rock to Recovery was just the rough idea of I wanted to create a music program that can take music into treatment centers, and so it's what we would call an ancillary service, right? We're detached and we can drive out and take music to your location, your location. So, what I do is I go in there and I connect with people. I can say, look, I've been where you're at. I had abuse and sexual abuse and addiction and drug addiction and alcoholism. I was in a treatment center. I get it. Let's connect. And we talk about what music is, which is just thoughts and feelings put to music, right? Or songs. Songs are thoughts and feelings put to music, right? And so we write a song together. And what I'll do is show people how to play. And they'll come in going, what? I don't play. I ain't singing. Screw you. Get out of here. And by the end, we'll have a song that we wrote together from our heart, from our soul, what we're feeling in that moment. And we'll write it, perform it, and record it all in that session. So
wow, that is powerful. Well, how did it lead to you doing the concert? Because you went to not only going inside treatment centers to say, hey, I'm offering this additional service to help people process and heal, but then it leads to this like huge concert now that's every year.
Yeah. So I started Rocks Recovery as a nonprofit because it sounded cool, because I had been exposed to that kind of concept of giving in my recovery. And we wanted to be able to raise more funds. And I was remembering when I got sober, how it feels like your life's over because you can't really hang out with all the old friends and go to the old places and whatever. And I remember going to a lot of backyard barbecues with sober people, and everybody's drinking 900 Red Bulls, just like, insecure like that. And I was like, ah. So the idea was to create the coolest sober event around, but not have it feel like a sober event. Have it feel as bright and broad as life itself. And so we honor sober celebrities or musicians, who are in recovery. We play some music. It's 100% sober, and we've honored Mike Ness from Social Distortion and Richard Patrick from Filter and Moby and Katie Seagal and Corey Taylor. And last year we had Keith David, who's a 3-time Emmy Award winner, and Jay Moore, Emmy-nominated comedian. And they share the recovery story and then play some music and comedy, and the energy in the room is just electric. And, we have a red carpet, so there's like models and celebrities coming out to support. And so the goal is to raise funds for the work we do in helping the people, but also to show that recovery can be light and bright and rock and roll and artistic. And, in those concerts, I love to go out and talk to the people attending them. And because half of the people that come to the concert will be actively in treatment. So when you're in treatment, they'll have what they call an outing. Like, hey, let's go pet horses, or let's go to the beach, or go on a hike. Well, when we have our concert, many, many treatment centers bring their clients there as an outing. So maybe they were shooting dope or vomiting blood a week before that, thinking their life's over, and they come to this concert and they're like, seeing like, hey, that's a famous actor, and there's a mom. Wait, you're sober? What? And that you do in the what? And this whole place, this is, and their minds are blown, and they'll tell me, they tell us, I can't believe it. I can't believe sober life could be so amazing. It's like, yeah, this thing lies to us, man. It tells us so many things that aren't true, especially for people who are addicted or fighting addiction or fighting alcoholism or behavioral disorders or domestic abuse. It's hard to imagine a bright, colorful life on the other side of letting go of those, problems.
Wow. But I imagine it's hope, and even
Hope.
just your story, Wes. And, that's why we do Addiction Talk is I feel like people need to see someone that maybe they can relate to, that if you can do it, that I can do it, if you can stand up and say, hi, I'm in recovery and I've been doing this and I work my program and I'm in Japan and I'm in a meeting, if I can do that, that so can you. So as we kind of wrap up this, Wes, I want to ask you a couple more questions. But one, what do you feel has been the best piece of advice or wisdom that you've either learned yourself or somebody told you on this journey?
The first one is nothing, I repeat, nothing is more important than my recovery. Nothing.
Mm.
Some people can't get it. No, your kids aren't more important. No, your job isn't more important. Your husband, your wife. No, because if I'm loaded, any kid, family member, dog is getting a shit version of me.
Mm.
I can't be there for anybody if I'm not sober. So I got to put the oxygen mask on me first before I can worry about anybody else. And it has to be number one. And so many people don't get that. They want to put their job or their career, everything before, or going to the gym. No, your tight glutes and your biceps are not more important. Now, maybe if you just have a drinking problem or you smoke a little too much weed, yeah, that's a small problem and you cut it out. But I'm saying I'm a drink to die, use to die addict. There's nothing more important. So my recovery comes first. And for me, I don't know why I got it. I'm not claiming I'm so smart or anything, but I got it. I got it that, like, if I put my recovery first, then my heart, my soul, my spirit, my mind is in the best place. So every other aspect of my life will benefit from it. So my recovery always comes first.
Oh, that's so, so good. And such good words of wisdom. Because I'm just thinking, if you're putting, like you said, if you put it first, you got to put on your oxygen mask first and then
Yeah.
everything else. And if we look at you as an example, you are blowing up. Tell me what you got going on. I hear we got a new band, we got a book coming out. I mean, take it away. Tell us what's up with you.
Let's see.
You're like, how much time do I have?
We put out a book. So because I was going, we were going into treatment centers and seeing these incredible transformations with people coming in, they're on Seroquel, they're depressed, and we watched them transform in our sessions. We wanted to tell our story. So this is Rock to Recovery, music as a catalyst for human transformation. Look, I'm doing it backwards in the mirror. That's pretty impressive. It's 18 vignettes of people who had incredible transformations, addictions, sex trafficking, trauma, sexual, wounded warriors, where music and our program was a part of it, a part of their recovery. So it's a book of hope, but then we also interlace the scientific elements of how music works, trying to push that narrative forward. So if you know anybody needs a book of hope, you want to get some inspiration, you can get this on Amazon. Let's see if I can do it again. Rock to Recovery.
We can't forget the name. I mean, it's the nonprofit. We got it. Rock to Recovery.
Got it. And it's my new band. What?
Oh,
the new band.
Okay.
It's called Human, and of course we have to spell it weird. But if you put HU3, you can find us anywhere. We got some vinyl out. But basically, if you like Muse and Radiohead and stuff like that, we do a lot of electronic, but we're also very rock. That's what we're doing. And funny enough, I met all these cats through various aspects of my sober journey, but it's my journey. So like, if anything changed, then everything changes, right? It's the butterfly effect. So I met these guys on the road to, doing this kind of work we do, being creatives. And there it is. You can find us on Spotify. We out there, HU3.
Okay.
Hey, and by the way, we're playing October 14th, Friday, with Julian K. It's the guys from Origin. When does this come out? Right now. It's live.
This is here live. We are live, Wes.
Friday night, Tiki Bar, Costa Mesa, Julian K., which is guys from Orgy and Dead by Sunrise, who was Chester Bennington's band. Your Favorite Color, which is David from Korn's son. They're an amazing band. Our band is, me, I played in Korn and had PE, and then Clinton played in DI, and our singer, Matt, he's incredible. So come out. It's a great show right there in Costa Mesa.
Right. I love it. So the sky is the limit for you. Any final words?
Exactly what you said. recovery is not merely about abstinence. It's about recovering your truest self, and it is truly limitless. That's the best thing about it. It is limitless. The same way addiction and alcoholism is limitless in how far it will take you down to death and beyond. Recovery and doing something where you're working on yourself every day, that it's truly limitless what you can achieve in your life.
I love
And it's
it.
there for everybody.
I love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Wes. This has been a delightful conversation. I have learned so much from you. You've been so transparent on this conversation. Much success. I know you're blowing up big time. You're already big time, but we'll be watching.
Well, my
And
mom
that's
thinks so.
and that's going to do it. Another edition of Addiction Talk. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and have a good night.
Thanks, Joy. You're awesome.